How was your birthday weekend?
It was nice. Nothing crazy happened. There's not some scandalous story. There's not some, I never had more fun. I never felt younger at heart, nothing like that. So it was all, but I don't look for those moments anymore. I'm just happy to get up and feel good when I do wake up.
What moments are you looking for?
That's it. I just don't want my knees to hurt, honestly.
But life is a series of moments. It's only the moments that matter.
No, okay, sure. Hang on. That might be a tattoo one of these days.
That's definitely someone's tattoo, just not ours.
Yeah, no kidding.
So no Metallica for you this weekend, then?
I did not take in a Metallica show. No, it was. I said it would be a game time decision, and Friday was right out. Sunday, I was thinking about it and thinking, no, I'll just go and enjoy it. And then it was just that Sunday evening vibe overtook me, and I was like, yeah, nah.
I had the old people moment as well. we had like our Lamont and Tinelli ball for their 35th anniversary with Stone Temple Pilots on Friday.
Okay.
And then on Saturday, we all went to Golden Gate Park for System of a Down and Deftones.
Mhm.
And Sunday, I hit a wall.
Sure.
I was like, I'm getting out of bed, but I think that's all I'm doing today. And I kept trying to do something. I was like, I should just do something around the house. I'm like, I'll make coffee and that'll help. No. I'll make more coffee. No. I'll have toast. None of it.
If toast isn't working, then there's something wrong.
It was like a toast and peanut butter and jam thing,
Yeah.
That used to be my happy food. That's what got me out of bed in high school when I was just comatose.
Oof.
And
I'm a big fan of toast as a general rule, and I don't even care what kind of. I mean, there are breads I don't care for, but I'll eat them as toast.
I think honestly, toast is. There's a whole song about toast that we don't need to go into here, but just know that there's a song about toast, and it describes how I feel.
Yeah,
because toast is awesome.
Good to know.
You can check it out offline. I'll send it to you because you'll just be like, "Why did you do this to me? I already like toast. I don't need the song." Things I wanted to talk about today are Nicolas Cage playing John Madden.
Yeah, how about that?
How about that?
Like everything Nicolas Cage, it'll be awesome or it won't be. There's not going to be a middle ground. This will be the movie everyone reminds themselves, oh my God, he's just one of our most talented actors, or we'll just laugh and go, oh, it's another one of those weird Nicolas Cage moments. There's nothing in between.
Except that this is the only biopic of John Madden, right? A man beloved by millions.
Mm-hmm.
Like if he cages this up, it's going to hurt a lot of people's feelings.
I think I would lean on the side of everybody involved understands what this is. I don't, David O. Russell's not like a young first-time filmmaker. I mean, he's got a lot of, he's got some real swings and misses, but he's always going for something. You can't accuse him of not trying to make interesting films. He's a bright guy, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And if he sees something in Nicolas Cage, I don't know. I'm not gonna. I guess he's earned my trust to assume that this might not be a complete grease fire.
That's my desperate hope. I mean, all through college and for about 20 years, I set my alarm every day for I want to say it was 7:35 or 8:35 because that's when John Madden came on the radio and he did just this little teeny tiny segment that lasted for maybe 2 to 5 minutes. And I rolled over, I turned off the alarm, I turned on the clock radio, I listened to John Madden, and then I went back to sleep. Because he was just that great.
Yeah, he was that great. You didn't, my mom, my wife, and a lot of other people I know who don't care about sports on any level absolutely adored John Madden.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, it's like you don't have to know what he's talking about to just get caught up in that enthusiasm as a broadcaster. Like my mom never cared about football on any level, never even pretended to care, but she always liked John Madden. It's just one of those things.
Was it the dogs? He always talked about his Newfoundlands.
I think it's just a vibe. I think in her, it's almost like, the way she was like, oh, I kind of like that song by the Go-Go's. And you're like, what? Just something got under, just she heard Our Lips Are Sealed in the background one day. I was like, oh, that's nice. And it just makes me feel good. Or any number of songs like that where you're like, well, okay. And I think Madden was like that to her. Just got her central nervous system in the right way.
I think it's weirder for me because I grew up with him as a local icon, and we had him here on the TV, we had him here on the radio, we had him here as the coach, we had him here physically. And now there's generations that know him because of video games.
Yeah, of course.
Like, he's a coaching legend in video games, living on for all these generations of kids that never knew he was that never saw him outside of that little scope of football.
Yeah. That he's real old school too, because he retired from coaching as a young man. You know what I mean? He got in, made his mark, got out, and then it's just coaches now, they hold on for dear life. You got to pry that key to the office away from their cold dead hands. And he was like, yeah, no, I'm done. I'm gonna go have a life now.
John Madden was the first person to say the Raiders should not get John Gruden back. And that whole time, everybody was like, get Gruden, this will change.
Yeah.
And he was like, no.
Yeah, it's not how it works.
Been out of the game for too long. And being out of the game for like not even, if you missed 1 week of a season, you're out of the game too long to get back into coaching.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, I was immersed in coaching all year. When I retired, my wife was like, who the hell are you? Get out of my life.
Yeah.
She's like, you had X amount of time that you were unavailable to us. And now we need you to continue to be unavailable for X amount of time because we've got things going on. And he's like, you can't do one and then the other and then one and then the other. It's like, you do one.
There's a lot of, as a touring musician, and a lot of touring musicians I know, if you come home for a few years, it's not being away half the time that can get in the way of a happy relationship. It's coming home and being there all the time, because you've got people who have spent years developing a life that makes sense and what it is. And then if it's real, all of a sudden it's like, okay, I'm done. I'm not touring anymore. It's like, you better come up with some hobbies, dude, because the people you live with are not used to being in there all damn day with all your weird neurotic tics and your, every night at 8:45, you start to get excited for no reason because you're so Pavlovian. Your Pavlovian impulses are making you crazy. So, I as a football coach, I can't imagine trying to replace the amount of energy you've been expending into new stuff. There's only so much fishing and golfing and hunting and whatever you can do.
And that hypervigilant focus.
Yeah.
Trying to translate that into normal life where you're constantly like hyper-focused and analyzing nonstop. I think that would make me a crazy person in real life.
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That hyper-vigilant focus, if like you look at football coaches, they spend every waking moment and obsessively making sure they remember or have a thought on this versus that and that moment. And 90% of the stuff they think about and prepare for never happens. The difference is, but when something does happen, they know what to do in that moment. They know what play to call. They know what play to defend. And it's not because they just got lucky at that moment. It's because they spent the last 3 years obsessing over what if this situation develops, and then they see it develop and they know what to do. It's crazy.
Unless the overtime rules changed the previous season and you weren't paying attention.
Right. Yeah, there is that.
Sad face.
Mm-hmm.
Niners are back. Do we have time to get into that or no?
Sure.
I'll be the first person to admit that I haven't been paying attention, because every time I went up to somebody and was like, "Hey, Niner game, anybody?" Everybody's like, preseason.
Yeah, it's. We were talking on the morning show. To say the Vikings won a preseason game, it's weird. It's like they were on the field with another team. That's all there is to say, because it's just practice. It's practice and whittling down your roster and giving people that you're not going to see play much football during the regular season a chance to, maybe work their way into a few more lineup decisions. But yeah, preseason football, it's that said, it's always exciting to look at the TV and just see NFL teams on the field. I walked into a brewery on Saturday, and the Vikings were playing the Browns, and just a bunch of TVs with NFL teams. It was like, yeah. And then within 30 seconds, I'm like, whatever. I don't care. It's nobody I'm going to see play again. But just it's just nice little breadcrumbs to lead us to opening, the opening weekend of NFL football, when all the things magical and normal about life return to us for 5 months.
One of the headlines that grabbed me was that a few years ago, the 49ers had a very injury-plagued preseason. And I wonder if that wasn't because they also had a very young, inexperienced roster at the time. And now we've had these guys together for a few years, and they've kind of started to get the gears in place and are kind of functioning more automatically than they used to. Or do you think
with every year, veterans expend less energy in the preseason too. Once you've got your gig, once you're secured, you don't have to earn it every time out in preseason. I mean, you can get hurt in week 1 or week 11, and that's normal. But getting hurt in a preseason game is just like, the Vikings lost their rookie quarterback for the season. He went in, played well in a preseason game, and walked off and said, "My knee hurts." And then they're like, "Oh, you have a torn meniscus. You're a top 10 pick in the draft this year. You just won a national title at Michigan. We'll see you in 12 months. And it's just like, oh man, didn't even make it to opening day.
That sucks. Do we want to make any predictions?
No. The older I get, the less I predict about anything to do with the world of sports. There's so many things going on behind every, like today, I just saw a story. I was just looking at it about Tua, the Dolphins quarterback, the coach that was down there a couple years ago. His head coach had been telling him, you just suck, man. You don't deserve to be our starter in another system, maybe, but as long as I'm here, like the head coach was, I think, probably trying to give him tough love and inspire him and encourage, but he's not the kind of guy who takes to that very well. Not too many athletes of the modern era are.
Yeah. They've all been given counseling and psychology and tools for processing. You're not supposed to just hit them.
And you don't know that's happening in real time, and nobody's going to talk about it as it's happening. It's 3 years later. Oh, I'll finally tell you what happened. And it's just another one of those many stories you hear where you're like, yeah, and I was betting on them that year. What the hell was I thinking? Why would I bet on what other people are doing? Well, you have no idea what's going on behind the scenes, especially, well, I always say it's fun to bet in the NFL, but if you're betting on college sports, you need to talk to somebody, because you're dealing with teenagers and acne and testosterone and girls and boys, and just who in the hell knows what a 19-year-old's going to do from game to game. So bet on college sports just because you want to light some money on fire.
I don't think you can predict college sports from one quarter to the next, much less game to game.
No.
It's so erratic.
Totally insane.
I think growing up in the Bay Area, I just got way too spoiled with so many professional sports teams that I never, ever watched a college game in my life.
Yeah, no, it's growing up in the South. It's, of course, the exact opposite. I mean, the Atlanta Braves and the Atlanta Falcons, those teams, that's late 60s before the biggest city in the Southeast had professional sports. So like, when people from other parts of the country go, God, why do they care so much about college football in the South and college basketball in North Carolina? And it's like
Warner and
it's like, hey man, for 100 years, that's what they had, for 80 years, college football, you look back at the footage and they were selling out those stadiums in the 1920s. They didn't have professional sports. It's just that simple.
Do you bet on sports?
Oh, I do. Yeah. Not crazy. I come and go with it. I don't, I used to bet in the old days, like in the late 80s, I bet a lot of NBA action. It was augmenting my meager income. And I had a couple of good seasons. I knew a bookie who ran a pool hall in Atlanta. Nice. And I had some real good runs, and by good runs in those days, that means I was winning $20 to $50 a game, which was huge money for me. And I still bet, still
$3.35 an hour, right? Or $4.25, somewhere in there.
Let's see. Well, it was actually $5 an hour.
Okay.
And I worked at a record store, and it was a flat $5 in 1988 and 89, which was really good money for the amount of effort I was putting into anything. But I bet, and I didn't for years, but then just when the app started showing up and legalized gambling online, and oddly enough, for Steve Gorman Rocks, I picked up a BetMGM endorsement a few years ago, and that's when I started, because they said, "Hey, do you want to check out our product, and will you talk about it on the air?" And they sent me some account login information and gave me a little money to play with. And it's just like it always is. First, like 3 weeks, I was killing it. I mean, every bet hit, and I was like, "This is great, I'm back." And then, by Thanksgiving, I'm like, I got to stop doing this. I'm about to go into the red here, and then it's just a constant fight, up and down the sea level.
Funny, yeah. The whole reason I brought it up is because I don't have to, but I mean, I accepted an endorsement from an online app, and you don't actually bet on, and I'm sure this is to do with the legals, right? But you don't actually bet on teams. What you do is you pick players, and you decide whether or not they're going to do above or below something.
Yeah.
Their rebounds, if it's basketball, or you pick assists or
points. I was doing that last season up here too. Yeah. Was it Underdog?
Nope, this one's Prize Picks. I'm sure there's a million of them, which is why.
So it's a way to get around. I guess they're saying it's not necessarily, it doesn't hold there's not the same restrictions as just straight online betting. So sometimes they come up with a way to skirt different laws state to state. But yeah, it's that stuff's always fun. When you hit one, it's great. It's like golf. When I have a great round of golf, I've learned, don't play again for a while. Like, because every golfer knows if you play great, you're going to go back the next day convinced that you're going to do it again. And it does not ever work. I'm a huge soccer fan. And so I cheer for a team from London called Arsenal in the English Premier League. And I have since I was 12, and my dad brought home an Arsenal scarf from England on a business trip. And so for the opening game of the season, I placed a wager on some, how many saves for each keeper, how many goals will he allow, who's going to score, and hit all. I went 5 for 5 on Saturday and had a nice little win. And I will not bet on another soccer game for 2 months, because I was like, oh, that's the one. Oh, awesome. Great. I'm done. It just relieves all the pressure.
It probably also stems the tide of that dopamine that hooks you, right? The whole reason people become dangerous is because keep betting, winning, losing, betting, winning, losing, and it's just firing off all those chemicals in the brain. But if you're great day, stop for a week or 2 weeks or a month or whatever, it probably slows that cycle.
Yeah, I like playing blackjack, at a casino, but that's all I play. And I'll sit at a blackjack table for literally 8 hours and just enjoy it. And it's just like being on a roller coaster. It goes up and it goes down, and then it spins, and then it gets straight, and then you go slow up a hill again. It's all the roll. But I can't imagine doing it 2 days in a row or 3 days. I go to Vegas, it's just because I'm playing a gig. It's get in, play the show, go play some cards, and then leave town. That's perfect for me. The idea of going back 2 or 3 days in a row, I think I would just be depressed if I did that.
Because unless you were going back and just winning all the time, because that never happens.
Yeah, it doesn't. No, that's a painful lesson to learn, which especially at blackjack, if you get on a tear in your first hour or two, you got to leave. You've got to just pull out. There's no such thing as it just kept happening. I just kept on winning. The biggest blackjack winning night I ever had. By the time I left that night, I was below zero. I lost several $1,000s that I was up because I was convinced it was going to be my night. This is 30 plus years ago, but
right, it doesn't actually exist. It just kind of comes and goes, and you're like, ah.
Thankfully, a lesson I only had to learn once.
Yeah, you didn't have it when you walked in. You don't have it when you walk out. It's not like it was real. I did that once where somebody gave me $50 to play with. And as I was winning, I was taking the money and just handing it to him and just being like, here, put this away. Here, put this away. I'm going to keep playing until I run out, but here, put this away.
Right.
And then I finally ran out, and I was like, okay, what do we got? And he was like, wait, what? And I'm like, I gave you all that money. Where is it? And he's like, oh, I thought you still had some. And I was like, no, I just lost it all. So that's why I gave it to you. And he's like, oh, I just lost it all over here. And that was my money. And I was like, you dumbass, gave me your rent money to gamble with? Who am I?
Oh.
Why would you give me your rent money? I am not the person you give your rent money to.
Yeah. No.
I don't want that kind of responsibility. But
I knew Vegas wasn't I just remember several things first times going there in the early 90s. and I would have fun. But like when an ATM surcharge back in the day was like $1.50, it was already 10 in Vegas. Like you go get more cash and you're like, we'll take $10 to get this $50 out. And I was like, wait, what?
Nope.
And then the last time I went, it was literally like $60, just to pull out $100. It was whatever it was. It was a lot. It was at least $25 to get 100 out. Seriously. And I was like, okay, man, they're just killing us here.
They see you coming at that point. Yeah. Forget about it.
Yeah. Been a minute though for me.
And then
but I'll still go play blackjack again, but that's it. Everything else I ever tried, I was like, this is just me setting money on fire.
Well, the point is to set the money on fire anyway, right? The question is, how long are you going out for?
Yeah, that's true.
2 hours.
Yeah, are you trying to roast a marshmallow, or are you literally trying to get your body temperature back up to a safe zone? I mean, what are we trying to accomplish with this fire?
I had a friend drop $900 in 3 bets, and this was like New Year's Eve '95. So $900 was a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
And it was like 3 bets gone, and I'm like, what just happened? Ugh. And then I never saw him for the rest of the night because he was trying to win it back. And he apparently did win it back by like 6 a.m. And fortunately, it was New Year's Eve, so everything was still going at that point. But at 6 a.m., we were just like, dude,
yeah,
we're good. Like,
yeah,
come on.
Mm-hmm.
The danger of gambling. I think I have one more thing I was going to ask you about. What was it? Let me see if it's on my. Oh, I have lost it. Oh, Phil Donahue. That's what it was.
Yeah.
Did you ever see Phil Donahue?
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah, when I was a kid, I loved being home from school. Like if I was homesick and you'd watch the game, watch Family Feud, watch Price is Right, and then around 11 or 12, Phil Donahue would come on, and I was like 9 and 10, 11. I'd be like, yeah, I kind of feel like I'm not necessarily an adult, but yeah, I'm following this. I felt like a big kid when I'd watch Phil Donahue.
They it was almost sad for me for a minute today, and then they posted the episode. Ultimate Classic Rock posted the episode where he had fake Peter Criss from Kiss and real Peter Criss from Kiss on the show together, along with Tom Arnold, who I guess like revived fake Peter Criss when he went looking for what he thought was real Peter Criss and found fake Peter Criss like all OD'd and passed out or something on the sidewalk.
I don't remember any of that happening on Donahue, but that story is ringing a very vague bell. Like it was just like some homeless guy, right? That said he was Peter Criss. Yeah. What has that got to be, like in the mid 80s or something, or early 90s?
He told the story to the Star.
Oh my God, that's great.
Star printed it, which made everyone believe it. And this was it was like 80s or 90s. I mean, it was 96. So
kind of remembering that.
Yeah, and everyone believed it because there was no internet back then, and there was no way to verify stuff. So if a magazine said it, it's true, right?
Isn't it amazing to think back to a time which wasn't all that long ago, before we had the internet, and just go, how did anyone know or do anything? I mean, it's really amazing how much we've forgotten. I was telling the story the other day. I didn't fly till I think I was 20 the first time I got on an airplane. So like 1985. And I have absolutely no concept of how I got the ticket, what the ticket actually looked like. How did anyone know that I said I was who I was? I remember just walking into the airport and walking up to the gate and I was like, this is going to Philadelphia, right? Okay, cool. I have no recollection of any of the
security
logistics. Yeah. Oh no. I mean, maybe, I don't know. I don't remember. But it was, and then the second time I flew, I do remember I went to a mall that had a travel agency, and I said, I have to go to a wedding in Iowa City in like 3 months. And I just remember a travel agent opening up a book, not getting onto a computer. She just had like a 3-ring binder with pages that would be updated regularly from every airline. Mm-hmm. And I said, I got to get to Iowa City. And she was like, okay, so I think Delta has one that'll go. You'll probably end up flying through Detroit. And that's what I ended up doing. But she was just looking through a book on pages, and then somehow had one of those credit card swiping machines where you with the carbon page and all that. But I was like, no, I just have cash. And she took cash. I paid for a plane ticket in cash. It's just at the mall, at a travel agency in the mall. And then I don't know. I mean, I made
probably a book of like the most popular routes, right?
I guess, yeah. But she had every airline schedule. I guess they would every 3 or 4 months, they would update everywhere they were going and when, and you just look in there. But I don't remember her making a phone call to Delta to say something like, "Oh, by the way, is this flight sold out yet?" She probably did. I mean, but I don't know. It's just a whole different thing.
I was just watching Cleo. Have you seen that on Netflix?
No, I haven't seen it. I know what it is.
And it's period, right? So it takes place in the 60s, late 60s, early 70s in Europe. And everything is just so crazy because it's spiraling.
Oh, I did. Yeah, no, you know what? I did start to watch that. And then at some point a couple years ago, and like many things, I just I forgot. It's like East Berlin, right?
Yeah.
I was thinking it was something else. But when you said that, no, I remember that. I was like a spy and it's a daughter of a,
yeah.
Wow. I never went back and but I think I saw the first one. And I know what you mean about like, man, how,
Well, there's a new season. And
okay.
I liked watching it yesterday because A, I was going nowhere doing nothing. And B, because I was going nowhere and doing nothing, I could watch the subtitles the whole time.
Oh, right.
Normally when I've got a Netflix show on, I'm like listening to it and then looking up while I do other things. But with this, I had to just make sure I speak German. And it's a German film.
Gets in the way. Yeah.
But yeah, I kept noticing all those things, like the lack of airport security, the wheels without luggage, the fact that Walkmen were brand new and techno was everywhere.
Yeah. Oh, think about like packing a suitcase back in the day. You had to be very sparse with what you were bringing because you were going to carry that bad boy. I mean, I remember seeing the first rolling suitcase and just thinking like, holy crap, we are in the future. Who thought of that? Brilliant.
Just that we could get away without that now. Now, if I don't have spinner luggage, I'm like, I'm not going anywhere.
Not a chance. Yeah.
My carry-on is a spinner. Like, forget about it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, it's and I mean, the minute one wheel gets a little wonky, I'm like, I got to get a new suitcase. I can't work with this.
Yeah. We're spoiled.
Yep.
Cell phones, like life before cell phones. That whole spy novel thing is just all coordinated with times and places and wristwatches.
Yeah. Now, the number of stories that can no longer be told because cell phones would take care of 90% of the problems. I mean, it's the truth.
Planes, trains, and automobiles.
Yeah, absolutely.
Could never happen in the cell phone world.
I have a nephew who's a full-time musician. He tours constantly. He's got a great band. They're called Illiterate Light. If you just look them up, you will love them. And they'll be in the Bay Area later this year. You should go see them, and I will connect you with them. And they're no nepotism here. I have other family members who play music, and I'm like, hey, hope you're having fun. This kid's special. But when they talk about just their experiences, like as they were coming up and just trying to get anybody to pay attention for a band from Harrisonburg, Virginia, 8 years ago when they started. I was just looking at them going, how do you they already had like social people following them. And I'm like, yeah, how do you do that? He goes, oh, just talking afterwards, you just tag and then we just interact online and we do this. And I'm just thinking, this kid's not my great grandson. He's my nephew. And the difference, like when we started, when I started playing shows in the late 80s, it was like, I don't know, man. This guy said there's this basement of a Chinese restaurant in Greensboro wants us up there on Sunday night. So we're just going to get on 85 and follow signs to Greensboro and see what happens.
And hope there's gas money in it.
Yeah. And he would, and he's just like, God, that's so incredible. He's like, he said once, he goes, we've never been lost. And I was like, yeah, of course not. How could you be?
Yeah.
And then he goes, did you guys ever get lost? I go, did we ever not get lost? What are you talking about? You're calling people collect, and they're saying, yeah, collect call from Steve. And they'd say, and the response
not a thing anymore.
And the response is exit 17. No, thank you, operator. You're like sending messages via not accepted collect calls.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Oh God, we're old.
Yeah. But it was fun. I went to spring break in Daytona Beach from college in Kentucky Me and two buddies jumped in his Honda, a tiny little Honda hatchback in 1986. I had $32 in my pocket, and I bought the first tank of gas, and we went for a week. And I had a great time. And we did not have a place to stay. We just met people and crashed on the floor of their hotel rooms every night, a different place. And, you know, we left Bowling Green, Kentucky, and this is exactly what the conversation was. How do we get there? And I said, well, I know how to get to Atlanta. And then I know 75 just goes south. I mean, it's got to hit Florida eventually. There'll be signs for Daytona Beach probably. And that's exactly how we found Daytona Beach. Just trusting that there would be signs that, and there were, of course. It was like, but we didn't know. None of us had ever been there.
I had to do that with driving across Alabama. I landed at the top of the state, which I think was Montgomery.
And that's down low. Huntsville is up top.
Huntsville? Is there an airport there?
In Huntsville.
Wow.
Birmingham's like in the middle, a little farther, a little north of center.
It was
Birmingham definitely has a big airport.
It was like 350 miles from Gulf Shores.
That would have been Birmingham.
Okay, so we flew into Birmingham, and it was like 93. So I think I had a cell phone, but we landed at midnight and got a rental car and just drove in the dark, you know, with like a handful of highway names.
Yeah, sure.
I was planning to do that because I'd done that from California. You know, I get in the car and I just go south and just follow signs that say LA.
Yeah.
Way until I get there.
Yeah.
And it worked. But
incredible.
There were no lights on the signs. So I had no idea where I was. So I kept having to wait till I got to a truck stop and then exit and then be like, hey, where's this?
Yeah, sure.
How much further is that? And
I remember asking people that worked at toll booths, hey, how much farther is it to wherever? You know, you're just getting information wherever you can.
People were in toll booths then.
Yeah.
Thanks, pandemic. Yeah, all of that is gone. You couldn't work at a gas station if you didn't know the area because everybody would go to the gas station.
No, not a chance.
Directions.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay. What do you got coming up on the show tonight? Otherwise, we're just going to be marveling all day.
Tonight, we are looking back at the music of 1975. Big year for me. I turned 10. I moved from Maryland to Kentucky. If my life were a movie, that would be, the inciting incident would be that move. That's when everything got real fast.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's time I mean, growing up just south of Baltimore, that was the center of the universe as far as I knew. And then back to our original conversation today, I was an Orioles and Colts fan and Bullets fan. The Baltimore Bullets, who are now the Washington Wizards. That was an NBA team. Okay. So, I mean, I grew up with just professional sports. I didn't care about college sports at all. And then I moved to Kentucky, and it's all about University of Kentucky Wildcats and the Louisville Cardinals. And that's it. It's like first day of 5th grade. Cats are cards, man. Cats are cards. And I'm like, what the hell are you people talking about? It was this bizarre indoctrination. Kentucky basketball fans they're like deadheads. They don't want to hear anything else. It's like, no, I'm good. Just Kentucky basketball all year long. It's the state religion. And so I had the
Alabama thing. That's what it was like for me in Alabama. I was like, what is Tide and why is it rolling?
Yeah, no, Alabama football and Kentucky basketball. It's the same thing. It just if you either are on board or you're not. And I learned after one day of public school in Kentucky in 1975 that I will cheer against the University of Kentucky for the rest of my life. I was like, these people are crazy. I was talking to people who'd literally never heard. They're like, well, no, it's the Colts. Is that football? And I'm just going, oh my God, where are you people from?
Well, Kentucky.
Yeah, that was the answer. It's a wonderful town, Hopkinsville. My mom is still there. I go back all the time. I see it very differently now. But at 10 years old, put it this way, we moved down. It was Labor Day weekend, 1975. And as we were pulling into town, first time seeing our new home, we're driving by a mall, and the Martin Twin Theater had a big handmade sign under the marquee with a countdown, and it was only 2 more weeks. And so the number would change every week. So it had been only 6 more weeks, only 5 more weeks. And it still said only 2 more weeks until Jaws.
Oh,
it was September.
Wow.
It was September and Jaws still wasn't there. And if you were alive in 1975, the biggest movie of the summer that's all anyone talked about all summer. And we went to a place where it hadn't even gotten there yet. And at 10, I was like, oh my God, where are we? And I had a 12-year-old and a 14-year-old and a 16.
Did you spoil it for everybody? Were you
What's
like,
that?
yeah, did you spoil it for everybody?
But I mean, my sister was a junior in high school making that move. I mean, talk about going back in time. She was just like, get me the heck out of here.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
It's nice to live a city existence and then choose
to
enjoy your clothes in a small rural area. But
honestly, I could go move there now and be very happy. It's an hour from the Nashville airport. You're an hour from an airport. That's okay. It's not terrible, but you have access to everything now. Whereas in 1975, it was like, I thought we were going back to 1965 or 55. That's what it felt like.
It probably kind of was. It was like Napoleon Dynamite.
And again, I'm saying this coming from not Midtown Manhattan, from a Baltimore suburb. Okay, so just but yeah, I didn't leave Greenwich Village to head down there. I just left a suburb of Baltimore.
Yeah. People in Brooklyn are making fun of you for being from Baltimore, and you're like,
of course,
see Kentucky, bro.
That's right.
Awesome. Okay, let's see. I'm gonna go ahead and from here.
Right on.
Because I want